Right, now hopefully I've got everything this time. Let's have a little look. Oh, hello. Oh, I'm ever so pleased you could join me because I've been busy today, as you can see, and I've just been into the garden to get just one or two more things to finish what I'm doing here. Now, I don't know how clearly you can see, but I've used an old paint tray and I've filled the bottom bit with water. Can you see that? Real water there. And I've got some rocks, lots of sand, and I've just been finding some little trees, little palm tree there, just to finish it off, and a few more rocks. Perhaps we'll have one there, little rock there, maybe another one there. That fit in all right? Not quite, a bit too big. That one can go there, and that one can go there. So now I've finished and I'm ready to tell a story. Now, this is a story that Jesus told us. I don't know that he needed to do this because Jesus lived quite near the Sea of Galilee and there were lots of rocks, there were lots of sand, and there were lots of beautiful trees. So he could have demonstrated it there and then. Now, this is a story about two men who, they weren't exactly friends, but they got on all right together. And the reason why they weren't completely good friends was because one could be a bit silly from time to time, if I'm honest. And the other one, well, he was a more sort of sensible sort of person. Somebody might say he's very wise, whereas the other one was what we call a bit foolish, a bit silly. But both these men decided that they wanted to build themselves a house, and they knew the perfect spot. It had to be near the water, it had to have some nice trees, and it had to have lots of lovely sand, and be quite interesting rocks formation. And so they decided to search out the ideal place, and they came to this beautiful spot, and they found that there was a footpath just about being worn down so you could walk right into the sea. I've got my cloth ready. If you do this at home, and I hope you will, you might want to do it in the garden. I couldn't do it in the garden because I couldn't get the camera in the right place. Very complicated. So we got the water, we got the rocks, we got the trees, and we got the sand. And the first man said, oh, I'm going to build my house as near the water as I can. I'm going to build it right down on this sandy bit here. And his friend said to him, well, I don't know that that's a terribly good idea. He said, because if the tide comes in, it might wash away some of the sand. And the guy said, no, it'll be all right, it'll be all right. So, well, where are you going to build yours then? Oh, said the man, I'm going to build mine up on the rock. Up on the rock? Said the other man. Well, that's a bit silly, isn't it? You're going to have to climb all the way down before you can get into the water. I know, said the man, but just because it's a bit hard, it's not going to stop me. Because sometimes hard things are worth doing. And they had a good look round. And eventually they chose their spot. Now, the foolish man, here's a house I built earlier. The foolish man wanted to be as near to the water's edge as he possibly could. It's on a bit of a slope, so he levelled out the sand, and he thought that would be all right, that would be all right, perfect. And then I can just walk, I can even walk down the path, straight into the water, and I can have a little swim. The other man thought, no, I don't think that's a very sensible thing to do. I think if the water comes in, the sand could wash away. So he said, I'm going to build my house up on this rock here. And so he found a nice flat bit of rock. Oh, it's a bit slopey. He found some smaller rocks to help him balance it. There, oh, that's perfect. Nice and flat. There we are, with the windows open. And there they were. And on a fine sunny day, the man here would walk out of his house and he'd go into the water and he'd have a nice swim. And the man who lived in this house had to climb down all these rocky things until he jumped down onto the path and then went in the water. And of course, when the man had had his swim, he could go straight back into his house. But this poor chap had to do all this all the way up and back into his house. And the man here said, I told you it would be all right. Well, one night, something happened. It started to rain. Oh, yes, it started to rain. Oh, dear, oh, me. Oh, dear, oh, me. What's happened? The house on the rock stood firm. But look what happened to the house on the sand. It got carried into the water. The reason why it didn't have any chance of surviving was it wasn't built on a firm foundation, a firm holding. And the sand, and the more it rained, oh dear, the more the rain, the more the poor man's house, and he couldn't retrieve it. And it got soaking wet because it had been in the water, and he tried, but he couldn't bring it back. He turned to this man and said, you were right. I should have listened to you. You were absolutely right. Never mind, said the man. You can come and share my house until you can build a new one. But I think you ought to find a rock to build it on. So that was the story Jesus told. Now, what did it mean? Is it telling us not to be silly? Well, I think it is. Is it telling us that the easy things aren't always the best things? I think it's telling us that too. Is it telling us that sometimes it's quite hard to do things, but it's worth it in the end? I think it's telling us that too. But what Jesus really, really wanted the people to understand was that if you build your life on a very firm foundation, which all our houses are built on, foundations. If you build your house on a very firm foundation, you will have a much better chance in life of surviving and perhaps doing well. And the foundation that Jesus was talking about, I reckon you've probably guessed. The foundation was building your life on God and on Jesus. And Jesus is saying, if you trust me, if you believe in me, it won't always be easy. You'll still have difficult times in your life, but I'll keep you safer. I'll make you feel blessed. I'll make you feel loved. And I hope that in turn, you go out and love other people and show other people. Now, the man who lived in this house, he showed his friend that he could look after him until he built his own house. He trusted in God. He knew he'd built his house on the right place. He knew he was building his life on the right person. And the man who wanted the easy way out, it really didn't work out for him, did it? So I think that Jesus' message there was, build your house on the Lord. Build your life on the Lord. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do with this now. All I do know is that I have made a terrible mess. But fortunately, I've got a proper waterproof cover on my table. So if you're going to try this, make sure you're in a safe place. Well, it's been lovely to see you again. I'm going to play you out with a song which I hope you'll enjoy. I don't remember whether we've ever watched it in junior church. It might be that you watched it when I wasn't there. But let's have a look and see. I have to see if I can find it very quickly. And then I'll play it out. So I'll say goodbye to you now and hopefully see you again. Properly would be lovely, but until we can see each other properly, I'll be looking out for you. Are you ready? Are we ready? Here it comes.
upon a rock. The wise man built his house upon a rock, and the rains came a-tumbling down. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood firm. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came a-tumbling down. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up, and the house on the sand went splat. So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ. So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ. So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ, and the blessings will come down. The blessings come down as your prayers go up.